Meeting Act. So it'll be a very informative session. I think I think people are looking for this information, and we're happy to provide it, and that announcement will be forthcoming very soon. That's all I have. Very good. Now we'll open it up to public for public commentary. If anybody has anything to say, well, let me just say that in order to give interested parties a fair chance to be heard, each speaker can comment for an unassignable period of 5 minutes before turning the microphone over to the next speaker, and that after each has had one turn, a person may be heard for an additional unassignable period of 5 minutes. Thank you. When you come to the podium, please announce your name and your address, please.
Good evening. I am Rob Martin. I live at 45 Knollwood Drive in the Old Wheat Chief neighborhood in Morris Township. The reason why I'm here is, I guess it's been, we have a homeowner association, and it's been a topic of discussion. There's a home at 28 Knollwood Drive that has been vacant, and it has basically been run down. It's basically a shambles. It's an eyesore to the neighborhood. Everyone, many homes and a lot of our neighbors are concerned about the condition of the home. No one has been living in the home, but I think back maybe about 5 years ago, the previous, president of our association sent a letter trying to find out what the status is of the home. Is it owned by somebody? Is it owned by the bank? Like it's a health issue now. The homes, the windows in the home are broken. Trees have fallen over the past many years with all the many storms that have come in. While no tree is literally on the house, but it's the whole neighborhood, the whole property is a shambles. And we just want to know, we really have no resolution. What is the status of that property? Is it currently owned by somebody who isn't living there? Is it under foreclosure? How can we address this property so that it's no longer I don't know if plight is a too strong a word, but it's an issue with our neighborhood with property values.
Okay, so I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Quinn.
As you may be aware, it's foreclosure and there's litigation involved also. Township's been involved with that litigation with depositions. There's been court hearings. It's been going back and forth between the owner, I believe, is deceased. The parents are deceased on that one, and I don't have a status of where it is right now in the courts, but it has been going on for quite some time, which I will find out.
Okay, great.
But we do have a remedy, if I'm correct, that if there's growth or trees falling down, the township can come in and clean it up and charge back to the property owner, if that's the case?
We put a lien on the property, but it's full of liens right now.
It's full of liens right now.
That's the reason of foreclosure.
Okay. So there is a means of cleaning things up. Whether we would get paid back for our time is another question, but you want to go we'll follow up and take a look at it, and if it's truly an eyesore, we'll do some work to try to get it cleaned up.
Okay.
Tim, aren't there tickets or violations that could be issued for not meeting ordinances?
Yes, but the issue is all of these companies are out of state and there's no enforcement of it.
What companies?
The banks that are involved with it, mostly out of state.
Who owns the property?
Correct.
The banks are not, the lenders are not the owners yet, and won't be until the foreclosure is complete. And the heir, both the original owners are deceased, as you probably know. And the litigation that Mr. Quinn was referring to is the son suing the mortgage holder, claiming that there was spoliation of his property and his parents' property, personal belongings left in the house. So we'll make a call to the foreclosing parties and see if a sheriff's sale is scheduled or anything.
Right, so it's also been it's been informed to me that this sheriff's sale has been pending for quite some time, and it keeps getting pushed back or delayed, or so I don't know the ins and outs of that. So I guess I've been the head of this association for the past 3 years. Nothing's been changed in that 3 years, so as naive, or not naive, as uninformed as I am with the process, I would think that after 3 years, something has to be, some sort of resolution has to be kind of, line has to be drawn somewhere. And we just don't know if the line has been drawn, if enforceable action needs to take place or not. So I'm just asking, what's the next
John, is
step?
there anything that we actually can do other than to let it
Well,
take its
so
due course?
I was just gonna ask
Right.
Mr. Quinn if we can get someone, whether it's from the county or from the township, to go look at the property, if it's a public health hazard, that maybe we can have other types of remedies that we can try to fix the problem.
We'll get the status of it and find out what has been done. We have signed complaints against the son in the past. It's been adjudicated in the courts on that. There was some cleanup, but that was a number of years ago. And then this litigation has been going on. But we'll get a status and everything, be able to
Yeah,
report back.
I'm suggesting that if it's deemed that it's a public health hazard, that the township and or the county or whoever we can get to go in and clean it up as much as we can, maybe not fully, but to do something to make it less of a public health hazard if it's deemed that. And that might be our way around it, and then somehow, if we can get paid for it too, that'd be great. But if it's a public health issue, then it's not just the residents in the area, but anybody else that might be walking through or.
Last question, Mr. Mills. If we fine them, can those fines be turned into a lien?
They could. The process is a little ungainly, because we tried that in a different but similar situation. And here, the difficulty with any subsequent lien on the property, it's junior to the mortgage being foreclosed, and it will be a non-recognized lien because it's junior to the mortgage.
So you're saying the house is underwater?
Yeah, yes. So that's assuming the house is underwater, which I believe this one is, and another one in which it is similarly underwater.
Okay, very good.
Is there,
Duly know, okay.
okay, is there a report that I guess I could get, or am I allowed to ask for a report after the findings, or?
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, great. You need my
You're absolutely
information?
entitled to whatever information we have.
Okay. Okay,
We have your email address because you emailed,
By Mr. Morton,
yes,
yes,
okay, great,
about the mayor, about the office hours, right?
yes,
Yes, we have your email address.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Good evening. Marlene Memmer, 63 Independence Way. Two issues, two things that I want to bring up. There were water reports that came to the residents in September and November of last year. And it said it had an important information about our drinking water. And that there was a total TTHM violation. And one of them was, like I said, September 17th, November 26th of last year. And at the December 2018 meeting, I believe it was, Mrs. Wilson mentioned that you were anticipating having a presentation by the water department. Are we going to, so that when we get these notices, we might understand what we're looking at here, and how it impacts on us?
We do have our representative from the Southeast Morris County Water Utility Authority,
Yes.
SMUCA. Did I miss it?
Municipal Utility Authority.
Okay, SMUCA. They will be presenting at the Environmental Commission in May, correct?
May 9th.
May 9th.
I mean,
And that is, we had talked among ourselves about possibly scheduling another presentation for the public, but we have not resolved that. So that's something that I would like to see us discuss and resolve.
And Mrs.
great.
Memmer, I would agree with you that the notice that we received was very poorly worded and not very explanatory in terms of, layman's language to understand what the problem was.
Exactly.
But from what I understand, it was just one location in our entire water system that had that problem. And I'm not sure if has it been resolved?
Yes, it has, and the information is up on the Schmucker website on this.
And is there going to be a public notification?
I believe once they have the final test back in, they have to do a final notification.
Okay.
So
Very good.
we'll be getting another one.
You'll be getting another one of those. Hopefully it'll be,
Information notification is regular.
Very good, thank you very much.
And I would encourage you to show up to the May 9th Environmental Commission meeting. We're the Smucker representative will definitely be there that night. And hopefully we will have, we'll see, we may have another presentation separate for a larger audience. Or we may make that presentation that night open, like within this room,
Okay,
for
very
a larger audience. That's under discussion as well.
Okay, very good. And the other thing I wanted to discuss this evening was a continuing problem that we have, and I had mentioned this last year, I believe it was last year sometime. There is a pothole and punch bowl at the corner of Old Turnpike Road that is continuously eroding. I call it a reverse speed bump, because when I come to the stop sign, I stop at the stop sign, but I feel like I'm cautiously going through that intersection, to just continue on my way wherever I'm going. It just seems that that is continuously being eroded there, and is there some other problem with that intersection? I know the punch bowl comes down from Madison Avenue and hits a low point there, and as you're coming from Liberty Greens, you're down in a little hollow also. So
It's a drainage issue there, but the Department of Public Works is also aware that it's cold patch that's going in there now, and then once the weather gets warmer, they can put in regular patch, so. it should
I
work
know
like
it's
that.
been patched,
Right. But
within a couple of days of it being.
Right, but then you get a heavy rain and it washes out again, so
It just
once the
immediately
weather,
washes out
once
again.
the weather breaks, we're back into the spring, they can dig it all out and put in regular patch on that.
Will they resurface, because that part of the road has been resurfaced not too many years ago.
Yep.
And
They do a pretty good job.
I know they do a very good job. It looked great when it was first resurfaced, but then unfortunately it just got dug out again. So
okay,
we'll
thank
be
you.
looking at that and hopefully correcting it.
Mhm.
So it
Take care.
doesn't happen again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Quinn, with regard to the water question that
Yes.
was brought up, do we have any other connections with other water suppliers in the event that there ever is some kind of catastrophic event? Or
Yes, there's joint agreements with all the different water utilities throughout northern New Jersey, and it's about sharing resources and sharing water.
and we have other connections to be able to get water from those
Yes.
facilities?
Yes, we do. American Water Company and the one that is up, the Sag Valley, yes.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, we have physical connections to their water system that can bring the water in.
We do because we also transport water out of our system too, under contracts.
Okay.
And then the Morris County MUA oversees all of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, Stephanie Baima at 1 Level Ave, Apartment 2. Two quick questions. The first one is, I found the workshops that Committeewoman Wilson was talking about, the Environmental Commission getting up to snuff on interesting sounding. Are those offered publicly?
They're offered through an organization called ANJEC, which is Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions. And if you go on their website, yes, you could register for them.
All right, thank you. And then the other question is, so Level Ave is off of Western Ave, and I'm a walker, so I use the sidewalks quite a lot. Western Ave has a lot of rental situations, and I don't know what the situation is for expectations of people shoveling their sidewalks or having their renters shovel their sidewalks. So I was just curious if you could tell me what that is.
They're required to within 24 hours. If they don't, we can go up there, we usually give them a warning, and if they don't heed to that, then they get a summons.
And if it doesn't happen, what's the correct way to report that?
contact the police department, or you can contact my office, the administrator's office during the day, but at nighttime it would be the police department that would do the enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. I've sent a couple emails. My name is Dorothy Flynn. I'm at 48 Midland Drive. Been there over 35 years now. I'd like to publicly thank you, the Township Committee, DPW, Parks and Rec, for their commitment to the Burnham Park Green Strip Safety Management Plan. As some of you may remember, and it's all too real of a reminder, that in June of 2018, a thunderstorm took the life of Nikisha Turner of Morristown and critically injured the life of Tanya Blaine of Roselle when a tree fell on their car as they traveled down Ford Avenue in Morristown, our neighbor. It takes but a second for Mother Nature to take a life. Your commitment to the safety of my neighbors is truly a testimony that you care more about the lives of my neighbors than a tree. So I appreciate that you can see through the rhetoric of the local group that claims to be representing me, and they don't. So thank you for your time and your commitment to the safety of my neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn.
Thank you very much for coming out.
Yeah, we're all together. Good evening. I live on Friar Road in Morris Plains, but I'm going to report an incident I was involved in on Gregory Avenue.
Can you give us your name first?
Sorry, Sherilyn Reynolds.
Sure.
So on Friday, February 8th, I was walking my dog. I take him to Wash and Wiggle, the daycare, grooming. It's great. Never been there. And I was walking him down Gregory Avenue because he had to go to the bathroom. And as I was walking back up the street, there was a woman walking a pit bull, and it broke off the leash and attacked my dog, who's 13 pounds. He's fine, you know, he can walk and, you know, he survived the attack, but he did suffer a punctured wound. I was knocked to the ground, and my knee was all bruised, and regardless of the injuries that were sustained or not, or whatever, I worry for the residents and the neighborhood because this seems to be an ongoing problem and a recurring problem. And I worry for the animals, the people, the kids that live in the neighborhood. And I've contacted the police. You may have even heard a story or two of this, animal control. And apparently the owner has been mandated to have a muzzle on the dog, and it did not have a muzzle on at the time. We'll continue, but
So,
Can you give us your name first, please?
my name's Natalie Ciano, and I live at 12 Gregory. And so this particular attack on Sherilyn and her dog Mo happened pretty much in front of my house at about 5 o'clock. So I've known the neighbor and the dog for a while now. I've lived there 3 years. I'm not sure how long she's had the dog, but we're thinking like a year, year and a half. So this attack was just one in many, and I'm not exactly sure how many, but we know it goes back to March of 2018. There was a police report. So now we're into a year of different reports going on from 2018 to 2019. So I think what's happened, and I've witnessed not only hers, but another one in the past. And then as the community was speaking about it, apparently it happens quite frequently because when she's given a summons or anything like that, she's not adhering to those summonses or rules, procedures, what have you. Now, she has a court date coming up. I think it's March 18th.
yeah.
So we are aware of that, and I had emailed everyone, I believe, on the panel here, and Mr. Quinn had gotten back to me about that. So we really have a question, though, because I saw her today with the dog, And I was going into my front yard to get something, and I saw her right in front of my house, so I just turned around and got back in my car, because I had someplace to go anyway, because I really just don't want to have any discussions or any more confrontations, because of this particular thing that happened not too long ago was pretty scary. I mean, I've seen it before, but this one was really scary because the dog is super strong and the woman, the owner, just can't handle the dog at all, period, at all. I don't even know if she could handle it with the correct muzzle, and we all love animals, we all have animals. I thought the dog was a okay dog until I started hearing about, because the dog, I'm not sure attacks humans that often, but I don't know, but likes to attack other dogs that are smaller. I don't know if it goes for bigger dogs. There's a ton of dogs in the neighborhood. The Wash and Wiggles on the corner, so that's why she was in my neighborhood, yeah. So some people walk down the street that don't know our street and don't know the dog and don't know the lady and don't know the situation. And so my neighbor directly to, and she couldn't be here tonight because she works, so I was interested in knowing some more about how we can communicate as a community with these health and safety issues that we've all been talking about all night. But she, because she works with dogs, and she just has no fear, and she has been a hero. She has gone out there and physically grabbed the dog off of the other dog and the owner, and grabbed this dog, this pit bull, and she gets it under the arms, and she's pried the jaws pried the dog's jaws off of the other dog. So I know my neighbors paid for a bunch of vet bills for people that have been attacked and everything, and I like her, I don't understand what she's not understanding about this issue, because she's also said in the past that, the dog gets off and goes for skunks and things, and she just has to let it go, because she just has to let it go. And the dog will just come back when it comes back, so it's roaming around the neighborhood so I brought her into my house and the dog into my house, and they were there for an hour, and the police came, and they did, what they could do, and she gave her report. So I'm just here as I was witnessing to it, but I tell you, I didn't want to physically, I'm not my neighbor. She knows dogs, and I'm not gonna get in the way of a pit bull and wrestle a pit bull, so the only thing I knew to do was to get her and dog into my house. So as we're running into my door, the dog is coming onto my porch, and my mother with dementia is coming out the door, and my animals are, it was like, we don't even know how we got in the door.
So I think Mr. Quinn actually has an update for you
Great.
on the situation. So
It's very similar to what I wrote. We've issued a number of summonses to them.
Yeah.
The dog is also required to be on a leash and a muzzle when it's off if it's property, as you know. We've asked you that if you see that, to call the police, because then we'll then respond. If they find the dog there, they will issue another summons. She's also been ordered by the court there, so besides getting the summons for that, she's going to get a summons for contempt of court, which carries a fairly significant penalty. As you know, it was supposed to be heard back in court in February, and then she went in there and she requested legal counsel, so she was given a month to get legal counsel. She's back in on March the 18th, I think.
It's the 18th.
And it's being monitored by, we have a officer that is responsible for all the animal control complaints now, that is actively involved, and I think he sent you some emails.
Yeah.
Is it
Like
so?
So then, that's Kevin Green is our health officer, who's also involved in it,
Yeah.
and then also our animal control officer. So they're all aware of it.
Is that Sergeant Waller?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Okay,
that's Sergeant Waller.
And so they're taking a very active approach to it. They've assigned it to the patrols to make sure when they're on Gregory Avenue to be on the lookout for the dog. So they're aware of that and have requested from the residents there. Certainly if you see her allowing the dog to be off the property without being the muzzle and the leash, to notify us.
Well, yeah, and I wish I would have, it's shocked me to see her today, to be honest, because I haven't seen her in a long time. So she did have a leash on the dog. I don't know if she had a muzzle. I didn't even look,
Okay.
because I had to go.
But if you see it, please call the police department right away and they will respond, and they're well aware.
Yeah.
They will be checking on it also, and hopefully we'll get some adjudication for it on March the 18th, and come up with a solution for that.
Okay, that's what we'll do. There might be other people here that are gonna speak, I'm not sure about that. But I just wanna know, in the interim, between the time that the quarantine was over, which I think was like February 20th. So from the time the quarantine's over, from February 20th to March 18th, that's basically all you can do. And so I'm just wondering when and how and when do animals get taken away if they're deemed, like, you can't train them, we can't help the owner,
And that doesn't, unfortunately, we're not there yet, but it would have to go before the court and get a court order for that, for the dogs to be seized.
so that's what,
There's a statute called a potentially dangerous dog,
uh-huh.
and it would have to have, somebody would have to have, not that I want this to happen, but if another dog was mauled to death, if a person was severely injured, that kind of thing, absent to somebody that can't control their dog, which this case may be.
So in court, that would
It
be
would
the
have to
type
be.
of thing discussed?
Right, it would have to, our animal control, and they would bring that, if they thought that they met the requirements of the statute, they would bring it before the judge, and the judge would make the determination if there was, it met the statute and what had to be done. We recently had one last year, which we went through, and the dogs were taken until they made all the requirements at the home to secure the dog, and before they can come out again, also with muzzles and on leash, and then certain requirements so they can't get off the property. And then there's certain other times, if it's much more severe, that will order the dog to be removed from the Township of Morris and we'll have to find another location for it.
Okay, so
It's all-
that's what she's in, that legal process right
No,
now?
she is not. She
Okay.
is not in the legal process for potentially dangerous dog because we don't meet the statute requirements for it.
And the statute would be mauling another dog or
No, it's called
severely
it's called
injured?
potentially dangerous dog. And
Okay.
the requirements of that, and she would have to, I don't have the statute in front of me, but it would have to be a really, like, she mauled another dog to death. If somebody was severely injured, it's not just your typical dog bite or dog fight.
Yeah, well, unfortunately with that, I mean,
It's a tough, it's
we've
tough.
just been lucky to
It's
help
tough to
people,
prove.
but one day there's not gonna be anybody out
Right,
there,
right.
and the dog will eat the other dog,
I know.
that's for sure, and then we'll go,
No, but-
you know, it's just.
But we have to act on fact and not what ifs, unfortunately.
Well, it'll be soon, I'm pretty much,
I just think the unfortunate thing is you guys are going to react instead of being proactive. That's what's
No, if you listened to me before, I said the patrols are out there,
Sure.
and they've been identified when they're driving down that street to look for the dog, and to make sure that's not there. So they are being proactive, sir.
Yeah, but we're all just hopeful that nothing happens between now and March
As
8th.
I said, we deal with fact and not what ifs.
Sure, understood.
Okay.
It's just frustrating, obviously.
Obviously.
Talking about safety for the previous speaker was great. This one was like, yeah, hopefully, everything's fine.
well,
It's still frustrating, that's all.
it's just frustrating, I think, too, is that there have been so many reports on one dog for at least going back to March 18th, and it doesn't seem like any of the, you know, ways that you all go about trying to get through to the neighbor is working. I mean, it's obviously not working. She was supposed to go in court February 11th. This attack happened on the 8th, and she turned around and there was another attack on the 11th, even while she was on quarantine. I mean, there's something, unless, you know, I don't know what's going on, but, so it's just a hot
You're
mess.
in municipal court then
Right.
and voice these opinions because
Yeah.
your body can't do anything about what you're describing.
And we're doing everything legally responsible for the courts to do that.
So is that hearing going to take place in Madison, at the Madison Court Building?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
On March 18th? And you're aware of the date and the location?
Yes,
So
we
you're,
are, yeah.
you can appear before the court and give testimony.
okay. Do
And-
we need a
I believe the
time
judge even has the power to order the animal euthanized if it meets the criteria.
if it meets, right, okay.
I didn't put offhand as we sit here, I don't know what that is, but I,
Right,
It's-
right.
we're not-
But right now, it is in the hands of the court, and we'll see what happens after that court decision on March 18th.
Okay,
But in the interim, call the police if there's a rule breaking, let them know right away and they'll come out, and urge you to go to the court hearing on March 18th and
yeah.
say
Do
what
we
you
have
just
a-
said.
Yeah, do we have a time on that, or can we find out what time? Oh, it's 4.
Yeah.
On March 18th is 4 o'clock? Well, that's what I
Very
was
good,
told.
thank you. Can I ask, sir, since you spoke, what's your name for the record, please?
My name is Jeffrey Reynolds. I'm his,
Very good, thank you.
his our-
Thank you for coming out.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janice Riker Doe. and I live at 36 East Lake Boulevard. I've lived in this house for pretty close to 45 years, give or take a few years away for college. And I want to thank you guys all for the fantastic effort put forth by the township to finally clean up the green strip that I've been staring at for 45 years between East and West Lake Boulevard. The amount of fallen trees, never cleaned up after numerous storms, including large chopped up tree trunks left by the electrical companies after removing them from the down power lines, combined with years of homeowners and landscapers blowing their leaves and dumping debris in there, is not only a huge eyesore, it's flat out dangerous. I won't even go into how many power outages we've had over the years. Over the past couple of weeks, I can't believe the transformation, and I can't thank you and your team as well as those who came before you enough. When I see those township trucks coming up the street, it's like a sight for sore eyes. I mean, I love the sound of chainsaws right now. And I'm looking forward to the days when I can bring my kids, we're back there, way past their bedtime, to go in there like I did as a child, to explore, enjoy nature, and get their hands dirty. Right now, unfortunately, we don't have sidewalks, so now when I ride my bike with my dogs, I'm sure the crazy lady that you all see, I have to dodge branches, especially when it's windy out there. We have to go into the side of the street so nobody hits us, or we don't have the luxury of those sidewalks. I love them, please, I'd love to talk to you. And again, I just want to say, you probably don't come in, a lot of people don't come in here to thank you, and I really can't thank you guys enough for addressing that issue. And it's been a phenomenal job well done. I do have a few questions for you, and then I have another concern. Has the project stopped? I know I don't know, is it official wetlands down there, or is that a stream, or is that, what's happening down there?
The lower third
Yeah.
is wetlands.
Okay,
The only thing we have to be careful on that is what we do, because of the wetlands, we would need permits and those kinds of things. So
okay.
unless there's an imminent hazard, we're not going to do much on the lower third.
Okay, what about when the dead trees are close to the road? Not so much going into it, but if there's
If we can remove
blatantly,
them,
obviously
Mhm.
dead trees that we walk past on a daily basis,
Mhm.
they can be removed
Yes.
without permits and such?
yes.
Okay, that's good. So that is going to be in the future?
Right, as long as we don't trample there and the undergrowth and everything else, so we'd have to look at what we can do there without disrupting
Got it.
the wetlands, or else
Got it.
then we'd have to go for the permits.
Can I
Okay.
just ask one thing, the ash trees, there's ash trees in the wetlands that are marked and need to be removed,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would guess they're going to have somebody go in there and climbing.
They would,
They were
yes,
doing
and
Scottish
most of the
Services
stuff,
to it?
as you see, we've had private crews out there climbing.
Yeah.
Because we don't climb, we only use the
Right.
bucket trucks. So on the interior, we hire different companies to assist us with taking down those trees that have to be climbed
Okay.
or trimmed.
Thank you, thank you. And then my other concern, and I know I wanted to thank you and everything, but I want to be educated right now in what the role of the Burnham Park Association is. Again, I've lived here for 45 years. My father dedicated his life to being a Morristown policeman, and I just want to say, even from my memory of growing up, the thorn in my family side of this Burnham Park Association. There's a lot of my opinions in here, so whether they're facts or not, again, they're my opinions. I want you all to know their board members, there's a few of them, do not speak for or represent the majority of homeowners in the Burnham and Hillcrest neighborhoods, and they certainly don't speak for me, and they were not elected by me. Please do not allow an organization who does not seek out the opinions of the neighbors or keep us informed of what they are trying to prevent or what they're up to, except for when they're doing their cleanups and plantings, and once a year they send out their mission statement and they're looking for donations to influence your team. I am confused who gave them any power or authority to speak for or influence or represent us. If an organization wants to speak for a neighborhood as a whole, I would expect for them to seek out the opinions of the homeowners and get a consensus on what should be done. This needs to be brought to the forefront. In my opinion, again, and I know Burnham Park, the actual town or the actual park of Burnham Park is not township. However, I can speak for, I know a lot of our kids play baseball down at those fields, and I know you guys have coached down there. It's absolutely disgusting, the amount of geese feces on the ball field. They single-handedly shut down any improvement that can happen down there, and that's from a shed where you can put shovels to rake the grass, to dead trees hanging over the bleachers where I sit, and now we've got tarps on top of the dugouts. It's embarrassing. It looks like actually I should say the Bad News Bears fields were better than that. It's embarrassing. You go to other people's towns, it's like going into Yankee Stadium. So in my opinion, they have single-handedly destroyed the beauty of Burnham Park. I can remember growing up ice skating there. It was beautiful. You wanted to go down there. And I'm sure everybody who grew up here can have those memories. Now it's disgusting, absolutely disgusting. And they are behind that, 100,000%. And they're very secretive of it. They don't let you know what they're doing. And I know we walk together down at that park. They say we're out there a little bit for a weed whacker, and that's it, okay? It's what they do behind the scenes that I want you all to know, and the majority of our neighbors, they don't represent us. Please ask us our opinions, not the opinions of 4 members or whoever they are that secretly they have these meetings, they have elections amongst themselves, they don't involve anybody else, nobody else knows what's going on, but then all of a sudden you hear, oh yeah, the Burnham Park Association shut that down. Come on, my kids are 8 back there. I'm a stay-home mom. I see what goes on in this neighborhood. The only time I see them walking around the neighborhood is when they're taking pictures of ruts and of the tire marks in the so-called indigenous weeds that grow in the strip. Come on. Am I going to hold her accountable if a tree trunk falls on my kids? I mean, I could end it with that, but basically what I'm asking is, please, I'm asking you to think of all the residents and their safety first. Second, to make it more aesthetically pleasing to live in Burnham, in the Burnham and Hillcrest neighborhoods. And most importantly, let's work together to make it a neighborhood we can be proud of and not embarrassed of.
Janice, I think you realize that we are totally committed to cleaning this place up, and we will continue to do so.
Thank you.
You will say,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Doe, where the Burnham Park Field is actually in Marshtown.
No, I'm
So,
fully aware of
okay,
that.
just
Just
let
a
me
lot
know.
of our residents.
I drive by it every day.
Thank you so much.
And with regard to the geese that you mentioned, the geese cross lines. We have a lot of geese in Morris Township that come from the pond there. Do you have a specific suggestion about cleaning up the geese?
Police.
Geese police?
Don't let the dogs go down there. Let them chase them out there. And I bring that to, if you think about my kid going out there playing in the outfield, he goes to pick up a ground ball and he gets a handful of duck feces. And then he wants a hot dog.
Right. I've been there.
Not to mention the balcony of where the concession stand is about ready to fall down. The Burnham Park Association single-handedly shuts everything down. And I'm ready to say, you know what? Let it rot. Let's go find other fields. That'll be a whole other conversation we could come to you about. Hey, can you give us a nice field?
That concession is in Morristown.
No, I understand,
We don't
but
have anything.
I'm just giving you the example of what the Burnham Park Association does do. So maybe the next time that I'm here, I'm going to say, hey, can we have a nice baseball field like Hanover Township does, and Randolph does, Mandam does? I mean, we look like the Bad News Bears. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Frank Zupa. I live at 23 Canterbury Way, and I've been living in the township for almost 50 years now. The reason I'm here is to propose that the committee ask the police department and the DPW to study the issue of when cars are parked on the streets and in cul-de-sacs and there's snow on the ground. Because I notice more and more now the plows, to their credit, have a difficulty plowing the streets because there are too many cars in the wrong places. And one of the places especially is in cul-de-sacs. They park where the snowplow can't do anything but make one pass down the middle of the circle, and pull out. So my suggestion to you is at least study the issue, ask the police department and the DPW to do that study and see what you come up with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we go, doorbell.
Good evening, I will be brief. We're going to go back to the green strip between East Lake and Westlake. My name is John Rich, and my address is 10 East Lake Boulevard. Just want to really come here to express my support and appreciation for what the township is doing, what Mr. Quinn and his crew has been doing there, and that's really why I'm here. I do have one question now. My neighbor did raise an interesting point. So I don't know if you're familiar with where 10 East Lake is, so Dorothy and East Lake.
Mhm.
So going up the hill, there are probably 3 or 4 very large trees that are, 2 of them are very close to the street. So are you saying that you can clean those up and you plan to, or?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it and see, make sure that, you know, if there's something that we need permits for, we'll let you know, but if we can remove them without doing any damage or whatever, and,
Yeah, it looks like the crew.
'cause I'm sure when we get reported to DEP if we do something we're not supposed to.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like the crew started your crew started to cut some of the trees that were falling behind there. So I assume that you're going to go in there and clean up, but I didn't know if you had plans. So right now, you're done, you're saying?
No, we're still working.
Okay.
It's, right now, it's, you know, we're doing as much as we can as long as the ground is hard.
Okay.
Once the ground gets soft, then we can't get the equipment in there without causing more damage or getting our equipment stuck. So when we put the safety plan together, we were addressing the immediate hazards last fall, and then we've come back this winter when the ground has been hard, so we can get our equipment in there, and we'll continue to do that as long as the weather stays cold. So
Looks like next week is really a good week then. So,
yeah,
so thank you very much.
Yeah, we're dedicating the resources to do that over this winter, and so if we have a long winter, the more work will get done.
Perfect.
So, sir, is it your opinion that those 3 trees at the top of the park should be removed?
Well, not at the top. So where Dorothy and East Lake intersect, you go up the hill just slightly.
Midland.
In Midland?
Or Midland, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's where I was
Sorry,
thinking.
Midland.
Okay. I thought it was...
Because my neighbor Dorothy lives at that intersection. At Midland and East Lake, I'm sorry.
We'll look where the delineation is for the wetlands on that and make sure.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
I knew what you were saying.
What's that? Exactly.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. I just wanted to follow up from last month. I was inquiring about the construction work along Punch Bowl Road. I'm not sure if that's actually in Florham Park or the township.
It's the township.
It is the township. And what is the nature of that work?
The DEP cleaned up some people that dumped some old stoves, debris, household items, and buried it there, and has to be removed.
Buried on the St. Is that the St. Elizabeth's property?
St. Elizabeth's property,
It
yes.
looks like they're building sort of like a gravel road down to
Right, to get the equipment in there.
so the burial of the equipment wasn't up near the road. It's somewhere interior.
There where you see the big backhoe in there that they're digging up and getting that illegal dump stuff that was dumped there out of there.
Gotcha. Thank you. And
But it's being monitored by DEP.
oh, it is. Okay. Is there an estimated time to completion for that work, or is it?
I believe it's this spring, but you know, they're moving pretty quickly on it.
Okay, thank you. I was taking advantage of, there's a new walking path that goes up along Con Road on the Honeywell track, a former Honeywell track that connects Park Avenue up to Con Road. It's a very substantial walkway, and I think it's a good improvement. It'll be, people are already jogging on it, walking on it, etc. Up where that terminates near Con Road, last week I was up there, it seems to be there's like, it's almost the size of 2 vehicles, this big pit right along the back gate there. Is that in preparation for the quiet zone work? Are they putting in a giant sewer there? I mean, it was a very massive pit that was walled off for excavation. No, I
I don't know.
don't
No,
know.
I can tell you it's not for the quiet zone.
It's not for the quiet zone. Okay, thank you. Is there an update on the quiet zone? Is there any progress on that? Or
It's all with DOT right now, just waiting for the formal approvals.
is there an estimated time to completion of that, or is it just open-ended?
I hear there's a hearing with the DOT Commissioner on March 11th right here. That'd be a good question to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if at that high level of the organization, if they have that level of granularity of detail what's happening locally, but you know, thank you.
It's about the training, so hopefully
Oh, all
they
right.
would know what's going on locally.
Thank you. And any update at all? I know there's, again, on the former Honeywell track, the commercial space that's to be developed at some point that sits up in between where the townhomes are. Does this committee, I mean, I know the private entity is sort of marketing that. Is there any update on any interest at all from any commercial tenants that you're aware of? Or
Not that we're aware of.
anyone else on the township committee here? Any? No.
The commercial piece.
No.
Unfortunately, no.
No.
No. And is there, the way that plan was built out, is there a time limit?
12 years.
12 years until market that property. Then what happens at the end of that 12 years?
Do you know Mr. Mills?
Yeah.
Not sure which property was with.
For the approvals for the Honeywell site for, when we did the master plan for the development on that overlay zone, that PUL.
If it's not built out, what happens?
Right, it was 12 years that they were given to do that.
Could it go back to
The zoning
residential?
will remain the same. You're talking about from a affordable housing perspective? or-
No, just from just a general development perspective.
Oh.
If no commercial tenants come
It would
forward.
continue to be available for the purpose for which it's zoned.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It would continue to be available to be used in accordance with the purposes for which it is zoned.
Gotcha. So is it conceivable that the zoning there could be changed? Could they come back and say, we can't market this as commercial and come back and make more residential up there? Is that something that could potentially happen?
Anybody can ask for anything.
Right.
At any time, so that I wouldn't say that's not a possibility, it's a possibility, but, what the leaders in play at that time would say, I can't tell you.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Patricia Simms. I am on Western Avenue in Marsh Township, and I am with the Marsh Township Office of Emergency Management Rescue Squad. And we just recently held our Roses fundraiser for Valentine's Day, which was a great success. And I would just like to say, along with the FMBA, we would both like to say thank you to the committee for supporting us and coming out and allowing us to do it and hold our fundraiser, and to anybody of the public that came in and joined us with our Roses fundraiser. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you for holding it.
Yeah, thank you guys for all you do for the community.
Thank you.
You were raising money to benefit all of us,
Yes,
so
comes back to you guys.
good job for that. It comes back to us.
Thanks for coming to see us there, but we don't want to see you out
Great.
in that way.
Jim O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way. Was wondering at the old Menon site, or Palmolive, I guess, what are the piles of dirt there? I mean, I guess, are they excavation or are they for construction purposes?
Yes,
Yes, they're, or when they build the roads in there, it's going to be the underlay for the roads.
Oh, okay.
So you can use that dirt for fill.
Oh, okay. Thank you. On the, okay. 0519 ordinance introduction. You explained that was because there had been a turnaround, or what do they call those things, and now the road goes through and it's no longer, what do they call it? There was a cul-de-sac, and there was a turnaround circle. And now that the road goes through, there's no need for the turnaround circle, so you're giving the land to the property owners. I was wondering, is any money involved? Was the property taken from property owners for public use, and is it now being returned to them, or is it being done in some other way?
The statute requires that when a public right-of-way is vacated, that the property be, automatically it goes to the abutting owners.
Oh, okay, whether that property was in that lot or not originate, right?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay, now, couple. Resolutions 4019 and 4119. Is that the Menon area?
It is.
Oh, okay. And okay, that's that development.
It's just to be clear on those, one, the developer's bringing in another developer to help with the development.
Okay,
That's why there's that transfer.
so that's what the resolutions are about.
Yeah, we had to, since we had a previous agreement, we had to update that agreement to allow another developer to come in to assist.
Okay, thank you.
Am I correct?
And,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Correct.
a separate issue. With regard to developers' lawsuits, I understand there's a proposal in the state legislature to repeal the provision for developers' lawsuits so that the developers won't be able to block, to have a threat to disregard the zoning of a municipality. Do you know where that is? Are you in support of it? Are you working with other municipalities on this question? And do you have any idea what the county freeholders are doing?
I don't know the status of the legislation. I think that this township committee previously resolved to support legislation that would lessen our burden or burdens imposed by the affordable housing lawsuits that are out there.
So is anything going on by the township now in that pursuit?
Say again, I'm sorry?
Anything going on by the township now in that pursuit?
No, we're all resolved with our issues with affordable housing and the challenges raised against this committee by the Fair Share Housing Center. So we're just now monitoring the implementation of any construction and furtherance of what's been already approved.
Okay.
There is a bill that Assemblyman Bucco has brought forward that would proposes to eliminate builders' remedy lawsuits.
Yeah, that's what he was alluding to.
Yeah, so
We don't know the status.
No, but we have talked with him about it and expressed, at least I support that.
Yeah, Jim, I can look into it too, and meet with the legislation standing committee and see what, we can vet the bill and see what our next steps as a committee, if we want to take an opinion or a stance on it.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Peter Gallerstein, 38 Laurel Lane. Just two quick points. I'm sorry I missed the ceremonial signing of the gun control, seeing I was so passionate about it, but I had a hot date babysitting my 9-month-old granddaughter, so you'll have to excuse me. And I'd like to give kudos to Peter, because when I brought this up about a year ago, we got into a discussion about it a couple of times, and I think at least, not to mention discussions that we have across the street from each other because we're neighbors, but I really, I thank him for considering it, and I thank him for changing his mind. And that was good. And I thank Jeff for-
Since you weren't here, we acknowledge Peter's signing of that last year as well.
I wanted to thank him.
Because back-to-back signings.
Yeah, for attacking him in public, I wanted to thank him in public. The other question I have, and I don't expect an answer, but I know the vaping thing, and there's been lots of discussions about it. The only thing I ask you is that if it does come to fruition in the township, in my discussions with various people, the word discretion has come up a lot, which always bothers me in enacting a law, that there will be discretion, because I don't know who's supposed to make the discretion. So the only thing I ask you is that if it does come up for discussion, and I think you're having forums, and the health benefits to me are obvious, but I think it's good to educate people. But the one thing I do ask, that when it does come up discussion, to make it very plain what the law would be to the populace here, because I think over and above the health benefits, the question is going to be, how is this going to be enforced? What will be the way it's enforced? What will be the manpower used to enforce it? I mean, I think that would be of great interest to the public. So I ask you to include that in your discussions and presentations.
The question again is, Peter, it has to be done even-handedly. So
I know, but I personally, I think in speaking to many people in the town, would be interested in, terms like even-handed discretion, things like that.
Well, I'm saying even-handed sort of trumps discretion.
Trump? No, I'm sorry, I didn't resist it. You set me up. You teed it up, Peter. But I would ask you that, I would be interested in what the mechanics of it will be. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion we close.
Anybody else from the public who'd like to be heard?
Motion we close the public session.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Next we have consideration of the monthly reports. We're almost done, so everybody stick around for a second. As circulated, the consideration of monthly reports as circulated. Can somebody move those, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Claims for payment of bills and vouchers, $8,733,202.18, which includes payments to the county and the school district from taxes that we collect for them. Anybody else that we're paying out to?
So moved.
Yeah, and the library, Very, that's why the number's so high. So, will somebody move that?
Motion for Mr. Robinet.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call on this.
Roll call now.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So two things before we go. One, I want to thank the public for coming out. It's almost 10 o'clock and you've been here for 3 hours. Thank you so much for being engaged in your community. We really appreciate it. And second is there was one matter in closed session that we did not get to, which I really would like us to talk about for 5 minutes. So I was going to request that we recess into closed session again for 5 minutes. It would not be anything that would come back and be discussed publicly, I don't think.
No.
So there's nothing to inform the community of further tonight on those actions, but
And it concerns potential litigation, so you just need a motion from one of your committee people.
will somebody move that for me, please? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.